Good afternoon, Marcus. We have a few more minutes. Carlos was planning to moderate today, but he let me know 45 minutes ago that he was feeling sick today and asked me to take his place. So I'll be working off the standard agenda for today. Can somebody affirm that they can hear me? Thank you.
Yep, we can hear you.
We'll give another minute or so. Who is Mark? Is this a Mark I know? There's a just up.
Yeah, this is Mark Duzer.
Hey, Mark. That would have been one of my guesses. Good. I see more people filtering in. All right, let's get started in earnest. This may be a short call as we have no pre-planned topics. I guess looking back, it seems Carlos may have been sick longer than a few days maybe. So, but again, I only found out 45 minutes ago he could not host. So standard agenda is introduction of attendees. So I see many familiar faces. Sandeep, have we had you on a call before? I can't recall.
Yeah, this is my first call.
Would you like to share with us your interest in OpenWhisk and your attendance?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sandeep. I'm joining from Bangalore. I work in Adobe. I think I have interacted with few guys, I think Marcus and Raba, around the PR related to tracing, tracing support. So yeah, so basically that's how, since I'm involved with Adobe, that's how kind of I'm interested in OpenWhisk and would love to contribute and interact with the team here.
Excellent, thank you. Good to see faces. So basically our next agenda item is just basically open comments. Are there any topics that people want to raise today? I plan to go through some of the recent dev list items as well as see if there are any PRs that people want to discuss that are of significance. Anything else anybody wants to bring up today? Any topics?
I see you have it in the list already, but basically, I'm just curious about the podling. Like, how's that process going, and who's supposed to be like submitting reports? Is there something the community should be participating in? Things like that. But I guess we'll get to that.
Well, actually, I'll take the opportunity to answer that now, Daniel. Excellent question. So basically we have peer responsibility. I mean, this call itself is we want to have rotating moderators. So even the podling reports, we ask anybody typically who's a committer on PPMC is able to write our report for us. There's really no magic to it. You just have to be able to pass it off to a mentor or somebody who has right access on the incubator wiki, basically, to post. So anybody could volunteer to do any of the things we're doing. I mean, Apache truly has a sense of equality and community. The people on the PPMC just generally try to steer things in the right direction and work on more challenging issues related to security or the health of the committer community and things like that. But in general, everybody is viewed equivalently as a contributor and as a committer. For this case, I've been doing most of the podling reports. I created the report Friday and I posted it yesterday. I tried to get somebody else to post it for me. No one volunteered to do that, so we did that. So again, everybody here can become a committer. Anybody here can host this call or step up to write the report when it's called for. So, did I answer your question, Daniel?
Yeah. I just didn't know if there was someone formally, that kind of. I guess you just by de facto had been doing it, so I didn't know if there was some particular role that does that each month, and if someone owns it.
Yeah, I mean that's my great fear for this call and for the report is that the same people end up doing it, and so that's not healthy. I don't think so. So again, at the end of the call, I'll be asking for other people to moderate. So we appreciate help there in that regard. I don't mind helping. I always try to take notes for this call, and for the podling reports, I'm happy to help write it up. But having other people's input into these things, even as a starting point, is great and helpful. So in terms of dev list topics, I know that on Carlos's mind, he wanted to talk about the most recent ones. Java Actions is a first-class citizen. I saw Roddick had some communication on that topic. I think that the bottom line is shaping up to be that there's interest in having some increased testing, perhaps, with the JavaScript client to make sure that we have more things in the catalog and more tests being run to treat it more as a first-class citizen. Any difference of opinion on this topic? Anybody have any opinions on this topic, or has anybody followed this and has anything to add? So hopefully, but
there was sorry, I'm sick, really sick today.
oh,
On this, I sick lately, getting the flu maybe. I don't know. Hi everyone. Sorry to join late. On this one, there was another thread in the mailing list for Java SDK. Yeah, we don't have a Java SDK. No one should be offended about not being a first class citizen. I think all languages are first class citizen. So don't get surprised if we get a email saying, "Hey, what about Go? Go is not first class citizen." Well, let's see if the community can add that support. But for Java, there was a different thread which I needed help from other folks, maybe Marcus or other people in Scala. Vincent is working on a Whisk rest.scala class for testing purposes. This is to be able to remove. Can everybody hear me, or maybe my?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm just going to mix topics. I think also Rob mentioned something about the CLI. So Vincent is working on removing the CLI from the core repo. So leaving the core repo, because today the core repo, the integration tests use the CLI to run the majority of the tests. So we want to take the CLI to a different repo, which we already did, but we're kind of manually syncing that until this work that Vincent is doing happens. So he has a good class, I think, it's in Scala that implements the REST interface to OpenWhisk to create an action, invoke an action, get activations, create a trigger, delete a trigger, all these basic things. And it's a good class. So someone mentioned that maybe we can take that code and make one library, can be written in Scala, and that can be used from Java, and that can be used from Scala, or maybe people can clarify, maybe that's not possible to use if we create the SDK based on Scala, can that be used in a Java action, or we have to have two implementation, which that's also okay, having a Java implementation for the REST API and one in Scala. Any thoughts?
It's possible to do it just in Scala and have a small Java state for it. So it's a little bit easier to use, but the core should be possible in just one language.
Yeah, the thing that I'm looking is a long term, right? I'm already hearing the people like complaining, say, "Oh, we have to add something or change a bug. We have to do it in two places, one for Java, one for Scala." Right. So if it can be one library, that's good. The other counterpoint is, which was discussion in the mailing list, was somebody said that generating the client SDK out of the Swagger using Swagger tooling, that could also be a potential for if we get a good Swagger docs. We can use Swagger, different Swagger tools, and I think there's different frameworks can generate you a client for I know for JavaScript and certain JavaScript frameworks. I'm guessing that the one that we're mentioning is like there's one that can generate you Java code. I don't know if there's same thing for Python or the other libraries, but
there should be lots of generators for OpenAPI. That's the intent of it, is that's the source code that you generate the API client code from. That's one of the stated purposes for it.
Yeah. So that long term also that looks attractive, right? Having a repo that takes a Swagger as the single source of truth and spits out clients for different languages, right? If I live in a dream world.
No,
but I don't know how successful is that or not, or practical. That's the things around that. But
the OpenAPI document should be the source of truth for what the footprint is, the signatures for the APIs. That's my opinion for a while. I really don't like talking about mixing languages and creating facades, because really, if you're a Java developer, you potentially don't want to confuse people. Especially if they're trying to integrate stuff with their tooling. I don't know what dependencies it puts on the Java code for Scala. So Here's is a binary that's fine.
Yeah, I think it should. That's what I was asking. Maybe Marcus has
static binary. That's fine, but if it's if it's all statically linked to and bound, but
gets compiled, gets into Maven somehow in Maven, and then Gradle just handle it, just makes it part of the dependencies.
Yeah.
People are using Gradle.
Yeah,
I don't know. Those were my thoughts. My two thoughts of like there's some Scala code that can be used as a building block to write the Java code. Also, I think Ben from Red Hat said he was going to take a look at the Swagger. Because the person that submitted the email said that he got far generating Java classes with using the Swagger, but it was something in Swagger. So maybe something minor in Swagger that we have to adjust, and that could be the POC.
Yeah, automating and automation through that is that's what we want. So, but
that's it.
So
that's really have concrete.
Cool. I was going to pick on
that one.
James to get his opinion. Jim, do you want to give your opinion since I know you look at the JavaScript client a lot. Do you have an opinion on this topic?
I have some. I mean, my opinion is probably more about the runtimes in general because it's quite interesting. So someone this week was asking me about .NET support in OpenWhisk and whether that was coming along. And then also I was talking to someone today about Swift and Swift 4 and getting Swift 4 working. So I think, Rob went through the process of getting the first community runtime in there, which is really, really good. But I think it would be great to have some kind of documentation of what you have to do to include a new runtime to encourage people to do that. And also maybe for the different runtimes to have a set of goals for each of them. So, if to be not first class runtime, but these are the things that we would like to help encourage people to get involved so that, so the Swift client library is not really filled in and as a way to give people an idea about how they could get involved in the project. I think helping people add runtimes is I think the ability to add runtimes to OpenWhisk is a huge benefit of the project. So making that easier, having more concrete steps of what they can do to get a new runtime in. And then also maybe if we could have a document with things that a runtime needs, so it needs a client library, it needs this, that, and the other. And then maybe we could work on, filling out the current state of play for the different runtimes so that people know. Because I think things like client libraries are quite a nice task for developers if they want to get involved with a project to do, right? You don't really have to know the core code. If you're just a Java developer, you can go and write a client library really easily. So if we're not going to auto-generate them, I think maybe for Java, the auto-generating would probably work quite well, but I'd be interested to see auto-generating Swagger APIs. I just wonder how, I think someone else raised the question around like how natural they feel to the language or whether they feel very verbose. And, I think with the JavaScript client library, I've done a lot of work, or we've done a lot to make it very concise. And I don't know whether you get that same conciseness if you're auto-generating it. But I'd be interested to see, right? It is quite a lot of work to maintain the client libraries.
Right. Is that something?
Yeah.
You said some document. Is there something you could start putting out a starting point, a list or a topic list for us to fill out on our Confluence wiki? I can.
Yeah, I can do. Let me make a note. Yeah, and I'll ask while people are on the call. Is anyone the maintainer for the Swift runtime at the moment? Silence.
So, what's your question?
Who's the maintainer?
Yeah, who's the contact point for the Swift runtime? Or is it just not?
Everyone.
Everyone. Okay.
So I'm familiar with it. I did the last one, Swift 3.1.1. So it looks like Swift 4 is in the horizon. So that will be the next runtime to take a look. Also, I'm also familiar with the Node 8. I've been doing some work with the Node 8. Yeah. But all these runtimes, which could be the next topic, putting that in the core repo are becoming kind of painful because our Travis testing. So I've been playing around on creating a repo only that holds a runtime, and then how do we stitch it back in Ansible. There's certain things in Invoker that we assume the prefix, or we assume where we download these images. So there's some work in there.
This goes back to the stuff that Marcus mentioned about moving runtimes out of images and tests. That's related to that? It's just around that topic, or moving to that topic.
Well, before we move to that, to that topic, everybody agrees that to be practical is what users are looking for when they say, hey, I want an SDK or a client library inside my action. For the most part, 99% is I want to invoke an action, I want to fire a trigger. That's what we did in the beginning of OpenWhisk, because that was the necessity, not management APIs, but mostly I want to do a blocking invoke or a or async invoke or just fire a trigger to continue to do something else, or do an if statement or ETL type of thing. The other ones could be like if you do an async call, get the activation, but that's what I feel would be like the minimum bar. That's why the Swift one has the fire and the Whisk invoke. Someone submitted a pull request for the Swift to add certain things, more other things. But if you're looking into like building a whole SDK library, maybe look in those two first, and not try to do everything.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It just seems that most people that wouldn't be, there would be some set of developers, even though it's a 90-10 rule or whatever, that will want more than just invoke. So you can't. They'll want the SDK to be fully representative of the full API set. So
yeah, in a dream world, we have everything. Like yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But just giving feedback. Yeah, that was the feedback of asking like if that's what you see as most commonly used. But yeah, we can move to the next one if Marcus wants to take over.
Yeah, so that's a segue to the topic about, so we're running out of build time limits hitting its 50-minute threshold, Marcus. Anything more to say on this than what's obviously written here?
No, I don't think so. I think we have a good discussion on the dev list already. Yeah, constantly reaching 50 minutes of. To summarize quickly, we're constantly getting to the limit of 50 minutes in our Travis builds, which is long already. So the turnaround time for pull requests is quite long, and we need to turn off test coverage to keep us below the 50 minutes, which is, for me, opening those pull requests and reducing test coverage is super painful, and I hate to do it, but at the moment we need to. So the most obvious thing we were seeing for some time, I think, is to move the runtimes out of the repository, get them their own tests, get them their own repository, and have a release process for them. So so an OpenWhisk deployment can just define which runtimes to use, and that's it. And we did a lot of groundwork to do that. Roderick in particular, who made all the runtimes configurable for deployment. So that's great. On the dev list, you'll find a discussion on how we could attack that process that we need. And I think it's fairly straightforward because the runtimes don't change too often. The API between Invoker and the runtimes has in fact been stable for months, I think. So it's that's all great. So that shouldn't be too challenging in terms of keeping it all in sync. Just need somebody to take on the work and then start doing it. Maybe we should just start with one to put out an example, and then others can follow and just copy the same approach.
Okay. Thanks for the update, Marcus. Oops. All right, so Any of the other topics do we want to dive into? I think those are the two that you raised, Carlos.
Yeah, Rob had good thoughts. Like same line of thinking of me of like one repo for runtime type or multiple repos per version, or how do we do the tag and release? Because like for example, Swift 3, we have Swift 3, Swift 3.1, and Swift 4. And Swift 3, I don't want to touch it anymore. I want to deprecate it. And 3.1 will be there on the Swift 4. But if we change something in Swift 4, we don't want to like release a new image of the Swift 3, right? It doesn't change. We don't have to put out an image just because something changed in the repo. So just food for thought of like, if people know about tooling, instrumentation, scripts, or other projects, how do they deal with this multiple image, one repo, only detecting what changed, and then only deploying what that changed? That would be useful.
So, I mean, I just changed the default Python to 3. Is that underway as well? I mean, I was wondering what we're creating these release processes. What's our way of communicating to people, when we change like versions of runtime to things, defaults and things? Just notify people on the dev list, or do we have a prominently featured table to say we're doing this, or something? Well,
what's your question? I think you're asking rhetorical questions, things that we don't have.
Yeah, things that we don't. So I guess that's the answer. So we don't have so we could probably develop that as part of the release.
If you want to follow the Apache way, you have a blog post, you have the release, you have release notes, you announce it in the Apache mailing list, and you put a blog post. You do Twitter.
Yep. We talked about doing
that's how I do it in other Apache projects. So
we talked about doing
a lot of work
a while back. So.
But one thing that I like what Rob said was 1.x versus 2.x. I don't know when OpenWhisk is going to be 2.x. We haven't been 1.x. But having, I don't think we have it today, a specification of what the runtime needs to do, a spec, right? And to be a runtime, you have to do listen on port 8080, or just say which you're exposing one port, and then you have two endpoints in it and run, and you take certain JSON and you put out certain JSONs. That should be written somewhere.
I think I
think it's written somewhere, but it's not like a spec thing that we can like take as like, can I test a runtime with this specification and it meets the minimum bar?
It's not formalized anyway.
Yeah, that's one thing I was really trying to look at.
So I just want to point out that I know Tyson's been active. I know in the Container Factor I saw, and some of these SPIs. He's asking for review on these, I know. So I just wanted to call that to his attention. And let you know, we got Tyson fully added to the committer stuff. That was interesting in and of itself. But yeah, he's now fully a member as a committer access. So he can actually, if people need help, he can actually do reviews and merges and things. So anything else? So runtime exploration, release planning. So that brings us nice, again, segue to release planning. I think that we had a very interesting discussion. I didn't see how well it got continued to the wiki. But do we have any concrete plans for doing some test runs, at least for the zip stuff of source? I don't know. I think that there was some feedback that in addition to that just the zip of source might be a nice start, but really we want a release process to include the Docker images as well for all the componentry, including runtimes, I guess, now. So
yeah, just doing the release, just doing the source and release it, I think it would be like a big goal.
It's a big goal.
Just to do that. You're not familiar with the voting process in the Apache policy and the red taping. Yep. Which is good. I'm not complaining, but I am. Yeah, it's we have to PGP and Shazum and 256 and make sure that the licenses all are good and pass the RAT tooling, and then do the discussion and the voting in the draft list, and then we pass it to the polling list.
Yeah, I want to get back to the RAT tooling. It's been delayed because I think doing a lot of other things. So I don't see it getting back to that until maybe second week of October.
But all the licenses are Apache now. We don't have any license legal problems in the repo.
We shouldn't, but the problem is we don't have automation to verify that on certain all these new repos being created, and there's a small set of ones that actually there's a status list I keep.
But that's okay. I mean, we can start with one repo, right? We can take the core repo.
So that's the one thing though. There's a mention right when I got back from vacation a few weeks ago, and didn't follow up on it. Is that the test repo? There are certain excluded directories. So right now the test repo is excluded. Anything under a test repository is excluded.
Yeah.
So we're still checking in old headers or files without headers. So I wanted to activate to remove that exclusion from all the repos. That's something. Does anybody have any objections for moving?
But when the test folder doesn't have to be included, like the release manager, whoever that person is, basically creates a zip file of the repo and deletes the test folder, anything that is not part of the release, right? That it doesn't deem part of the release, and that thing, the test folder, I would not include it, right? Just zip the repo, the core repo, don't include the test, sign it, run the rat tool, make sure it passes all the licenses, and that's the candidate to vote on it.
I think there's a separate discussion. The release and packaging excluding tests from the release is one thing, but the code, if it's in the repo, it needs to be donated and have the correct license header. So two separate things in my mind. Right?
So for the core repo, you said that their license headers are not done yet?
We have an exclusion that goes back to the first time the code was put in open source. So the scan tool always avoided the test directory. And that continues today with a configuration file. We configure it so it doesn't include the test directory. We'd have to turn that exclusion off. And it should be good, but I know people have snuck in a test here and there and they forget. So.
I see. Yeah, if you want to have the test folder, have the correct licensing for those files, that's okay. But it will not be part of the release, so it doesn't matter. When we vote, we'll not be voting on that folder, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I mean, so basically, the goal is to have all the repos have Travis automated with even if you just said scan code. But here's I created this page for us to monitor that, and here's my notes along the side if you want to see about what the license status is on each of the repos. But these repos down here, like workshop and website, we don't have any automation or any verification of these things. A lot of them just have no headers. I know on the website. Like there's a pull request open for this one. I don't see if anybody's reviewed that or not. So, anyways. So, all right, we got some work to do there. Again, I'm going to try to get to the rat tooling probably second week of October again, start looking at that. And maybe I'll start working on a bulleted plan or list of things that we probably need to do in order, and see if we can get volunteers to do these things. Other topics: performance test harness. So the SPI. So people SPI updates. If you're in a reviewer role or committer role, if you can give some feedback on the four requests and SPIs, that'd be appreciated from Tyson. He actually messaged me about that a couple days ago. So performance test harness. I saw that you're doing some check-ins there, Marcus. Anything to note there as we populate that repository?
Well, nothing really. It's still pretty simple and basic, but we keep finding bottlenecks with just those basic tests. So I guess, yeah, at least from my personal side at the moment, not much to wish for on that side. Looking to keep adding harnesses as we progress through simple bottlenecks to more complicated ones like workload-related, specific workload-related bottlenecks. But for now, nothing very serious to note.
Okay, thanks. So anything else, any other pull requests we should take note of or call people's attention to that they might be surprised if these get merged or something? Anything to take note of? Guess not. I was wondering myself, do is there a I just know we have 300 and well, we have 47 open. Is there somebody who's actually going through and trying to label these to try and see if new people come along, if it's a low priority, high priority, low hanging fruit, anything like that? Something else we worked on.
Look, I try to.
Yeah,
I put the labels, and I know Roderick does also.
Yeah, so
as they come in.
Just a reminder. I mean, just anybody who's a committer can add labels. I mean, if you see something coming in, and you take the time to open it, and it doesn't have labels, or the labels are not accurate, please add the labels. I mean, you can give it a relative priority. If there's a committer, everyone has the ability to do that. So please do that. All right.
Yeah, one thing on the performance, Marcus. You landed a commit PR 2727. You made some changes to Nginx. That helps in performance, right? So that would be useful for people to take notes if they maybe have their own Nginx or maybe an old copy of the Nginx configuration that would benefit for the keep alive and maybe other things.
Oh yeah, actually that's a good point. Yeah, all my measurements used to go into the controller directly, and Christian Bickel and I were working. We are looking into bottlenecks right now, and we found out that even in our production environment, even in very large environments, Nginx was a serious bottleneck, more serious than you'd like to think. Yeah, we found it. We fixed it. As you can see, it's a pretty simple change actually, but yeah, we thought along the line that it will be pretty simple, and the little switch that is missing somewhere actually took us quite a while to figure out what was happening. It was a lot of trial and error, but here we go. And I think with that being in, Nginx should perform as you expect, should be as if it was not there. So that should enable people to load test directly through Nginx without expecting a bottleneck in there.
Yeah, it was very, very good to find that mystery. I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos.
If people have like Kubernetes or have their own Nginx, or I know Dragos was doing their own methods or Docker Compose, they might not be using the same Nginx. So this is a good thing to pick up.
Right. So assuming that we're at the end of our topic list today, then I guess I'll just see if I can solicit somebody who wants to moderate the next call. So anybody would step up, I'd appreciate it. And so Carlos, I'm sure. Likely candidates from my mind are people that we see all the time and are been in the community forever. Jeremias, James. You guys, would either of you consider hosting? I know Jeremias, you've been gone. You're coming back. Maybe in 2 weeks' time, you'll be at the center of things again, as you are anyways. But would you care to host Jeremias in 2 weeks, or James maybe? Anybody?
I would happily host. Let me just check my calendar, because I'm for the next couple of months I'm mostly talking about OpenWhisk at conferences. So, and in 2 weeks I am also. So I'll probably have to skip till November at the moment, I'm afraid. But I would definitely like to host.
Excellent. Thanks for that future volunteer. So Jeremiah, I don't know if you're able to speak or not, but could you be the host in 2 weeks? I know you had interest previously.
Yeah, so I can do it. If someone else wants to do it, I'm fine with that. So probably we can ask in the mailing list, and if nobody wants to volunteer, I can volunteer for next week.
I'll pencil you in if you want to broach the subject in the mailing list. I'll let you do that, but I'll pencil you in for 2 weeks' time, and I'll do you can use my Zoom and I'll take notes as usual. So all you have to really do is bring up the most current topic list and solicit some topics perhaps.
Okay.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for your time today. Have a great week.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.